Hey there, MiniWarGamers. Cooler here, Owen here from MiniWarGaming. And today I'm doing a bit of something like Dave's Ask a Wargamer. More of a rules he got wrong though, as I go over a lot of the bat reps that have gone up, as well as a lot of the comments that have been left on them. Asking stuff like my opinion and how to play, and correcting us because we got lots of rules wrong, which it's true. Anyway, one of the first ones I got here, Reaper 84. Only Black Orcs leading units, quell animosity. 6-inch rule was last codex. Like the change in list cooler, hooray for variety. Anyway, yeah, Dan learned that lesson. He won't be doing it anymore with the animosity on his goblins, and we should get a game out soon. You'll probably see one of those in a little while, if it's not out by the time this goes up, because who knows when this is going to happen. What else we got here? Phobos Deimos. Hey Cooler, just a hint about the videos, they're ending abruptly. I'm not sure if you're editing, but it would be better if they were like Matt. Little likes Matt. I'm enjoying to see your bat reps. Thank you. Definitely glad you like seeing them. And they are. I've been changing them, still refining how everything works, getting used to it. Now it's getting more on bar there. But anyway, should make them better. Glad you're enjoying them, and I will make them better. So that's what I'll be doing. What else we got here? Usul, or Usul, or Usul, U-S-U-L, and depends on how you play them. I don't understand why the fanatics didn't hit the handlers of the Hydra. And okay, the big thing with Hydras, and this one comes up all the time, other than the fact that I bring two, but I'll get to that in a moment. The handlers on your Hydra, yes, there is models that go with the Hydra, but they're just a nuisance because they follow along with it, and it states any hits against these models are against the Hydra. So I heard it argued that if you hit them with a blast, it would still hit the guys beside the Hydra. Not according to any hits against them hits the Hydra. So it doesn't. It hits the Hydra. Even though like we look at it, it's like, oh, you got 3, they hit the Hydra. So if the Hydra gets hit, that's it. You could make an argument that it's 3 hits on the Hydra because it's 1, 2, 3, and then they all hit him. When it comes up, you may have to cross that bridge, but for the most part, it is not. It's just not. Other than that, bring 2 Hydras. The biggest reason why I did that with my Dark Elves is because I didn't have the points. And that's not so much the case anymore, which you can't see because they're not in my desk area. But anyway, I have more now, and you won't see as many Hydras out. Actually, they're... Over here? No. Yeah, you will for a little while still. A couple of bat reps coming out with that. Anyway, moving on. Robert the Wise, Gentleman's Bat Rep. Who comes up with these ideas? I do. My ideas. You're going to see more of those too, by the way. Okay, so that's one. Argomir. I don't know. Way to go, classy bat reps. Thank you. Think you are supposed to deploy your fortress before you deploy the rest of the terrain. The small rulebook has a nice summary of deployment on page 148. I'm sure it does. I don't have one. They have them somewhere. Yes, you do deploy the fortress. You deploy any fortifications before you deploy terrain, which in the bat rep that this is referring to, which is the one against me and Chris, where he brought the flyers against my Tau, and we dressed it. Anyway, it's the first gentleman's bat rep. I say first, because once again, there's more coming, and I don't know if that'll be up before this. But anyway, yes, you do deploy your fortifications first, which does seem wrong to me a little. I mean, you make the argument, oh, well, the fortress is there already, and they're just occupying it. They knew it was there. But the terrain was there, like hills were there before the fortress was there. Unless these are really, really well made, which... Okay. Well, what about the guy behind? No, we're not going to do that, no. But anyway, yes, you do deploy the terrain. In that battle, we put the fortress down, and then, I'm not sure if it's on camera, but all the terrain moves. We changed how it was, because we just leave them as, like, me and Chris, or Chris and I, often we don't roll for terrain. We both agree, like, there's different ways that everyone here likes to have the terrain set up. I know Matt prefers it where it's just even, where everybody's like, there's a forest here, forest there, or like ruins, and everything balances out. So there's no advantage to either side. Personally, I like a more storyline, cinematic. I can't think of a word right now. The moral of the story is it'd be like, in this back corner we have the village, and then there's like a hilltop, and then we've got the forest here, and like a road heading into the village. So it's something more orchestrated. Something like, it's not just random stuff thrown out on a battlefield and you happen to be fighting over it. It's actually like a place, and there's something there for, there's a reason, there's something you're doing for it. That's my opinion. So you'll see in a lot of mine that you'll see like a collection of cities or ruins in one section, and then it'll be more forested around it. And if you notice, probably not, because I don't like, haven't used a lot of terrain, which is changing. We're starting to use a lot more terrain, I've noticed. But anyway, next comment. Crooked Bird. I'm afraid you cannot move your Farseer prior to using Prescience, as it is a blessing and must be used at the beginning of your movement phase. Yes, he did forget often. Chris is new to the 6th edition, I'm new to 6th edition. It's not a... yes, it's a big deal, because I mean you can move and get into range with somebody, but it's like a 24-inch range, right? I don't know that, I'm not going to look, but I guess that could be an argument, is that you can move and get in range. Anyway, yes, it is done before that, that's correct. Future reference, it won't be done, but for that bat rep, you're right. Yeah. Azebo. He should have targeted the fortress. Those lances would have torn it a new one and done massive damage to occupants. Targeting buildings. Now, there's a bit of a back and forth about this, about how targeting the buildings will actually work. One side of it is, you just shoot a building. There's no one in it, whatever, you shoot it. That's not, you're not allowed to do that. You have to shoot an occupied building. You can't just shoot an empty building. There has to be an enemy there that you're shooting at, and it hits the building, or hit the building as though it was a vehicle that was occupied. But what constitutes being occupied is where the issue comes in, because the way buildings are described with battlements is that they're a multi-part building. So you've got your building, and then you've got your battlements. And that if you're on the top, you're essentially a unit that is occupying that vehicle, or occupying that building. That's the second part of that building. Yeah, that's how I would understand it, because you are still occupying that building. You're not in it, but you're part of it. And then you'd be able to shoot the building and kill the building and blow it up, and they all fall off, and there's a big disaster. But anyway, the problem with that, which that would make sense, I would accept those rules. But the issue comes in when you talk about automated weapons, because they say when you occupy the building, which the previous FAQ, and I don't have it printed off, but I know the gist of it is, let's say you have your turret on the top and then automated bolters inside. If you want to count as occupying, you have to be inside for the turrets to shoot automatically. But you have to be on top to aim the turret. Ergo, occupying only counts as being inside it. And if you're inside, that's occupying, and if you're not, then you can't be shot. You can't just shoot the building. You can shoot the guys, but you can't shoot the building. I don't really agree with that. I think if you have anybody in the building, it's your building, but I don't make the rules. So that's the reason why he didn't just shoot the building, which would have made sense, and it would have been a good plan, but the rules say you can't do it. Potato 32. Fire warriors do get an armor save when jumping off. No. Impact hits, they're not the same. You do an impact hit, which is not it is a dangerous terrain, but unlike dangerous terrain, you don't get an armor save, and it's -1 to your dice, or +1 to your dice roll. No, -1. I can do this. -1 to your dice roll for every 3 inches. There you go. Or it's on a 1 or a 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing. But anyway, what else we got? USC Dead Man. I have to say the flyer list really hurt him in the end. It was really nice to see a Tau win. I have to wonder why there weren't more crisis suits and stealth suits. There's no stealth suits because stealth suits are bad. That's it. You can argue, oh well, they have stealth now, so if we put them in ruins, they have a 2-up cover save. So I'm going to take my 18-inch range guys who have 3 shots and their best ability is their mobility, and go into cover and die because they get assaulted and they just fall apart because they're Tau. No. Or I can buy 9 fire warriors for the price of 3 battle suits, who have longer range, more wounds, can do just as good sitting in cover as anyone else, more attacks in melee, less likely to break. The only downside to these guys is they don't move as fast, and their armor save is a little bit worse. Which, you're always hiding in cover anyway, so you might as well, if all else fails, go to ground, you get it anyway. That's why I don't bring stealth suits. Crisis suits are a bit harder. They have a specific role in your army, which a lot of people use them as just everything. They use them to kill infantry, they use them to kill this, they use them to... That's not what they do. Or they can. You can do it like that, but the way you want to do this, and the way that I've seen, I have played Tau for a while now, and I usually win, surprisingly enough, with Tau. With only like that much cheating. No, not really. Anyway, you want them to do a specific role. When you build a fire, because with the new rules for wound allocation, there's no point kitting them differently. It doesn't benefit you other than having more guns, but the more guns makes them less rolled specifically. Like if you give your one guy with the Melta, and the one guy with the Plasma, and the Flamer, and the Burst Cannon, and the Missile Pod, and the whatever, that basically means that 1 in 3, or 2 in 3, or whatever the case, are doing nothing to whatever you shoot. Unless you pay for the target lock on everybody, which is more points, which... You're better off just bringing more units, because then you'd have more wounds, and that's what you should do. Anyway, Missile Pod Plasma is the #1 choice that I find. Following that, like in a game that you probably see before this comes up, is a big game against Tyranids, where me and Matt played, and you'll find out how that went. But that was Plasmas and Flamethrower, because you know you're fighting infantry, and you know you're fighting monsters. So you bring both. Makes sense, right? The other way of going about it is to go anti-armor, and you bring Meltas and Plasmas. Plasma, because anyone who's bringing mass armor is going to be really tough. They're going to have either high-powered armor, other than Guardians, or not Guardians, Imperial Guard, which that's what you have an army of Fire Warriors for, because Guardsmen on foot are dead. They're gone. They won't do anything to you. They'll have their one last cannon shot. You'll take your 4-up cover save because you'll be tucked away behind something, and you'll laugh or you'll die. It doesn't matter. You only lose one guy. But your guns are just going to eat them alive. They're all just going to disappear. Wounding on 2s, no save. That's it. Unless they're in cover, but then you have longer range, so you win that game too. But anyway, that's what I think of battlesuits. Battlesuits I will bring, and you'll probably see them more as I scale up more, which I can. I have a Manta, I just don't use it. But the battlesuits in a small point game are very expensive for what they're able to do, because they're not that tough. They're a Space Marine. In all intents and purposes, they're a Space Marine with 2 wounds, and a worse initiative and a worse weapon skill, and no access to power weapons. So you cannot get into close combat, because you've wasted your unit if you're in close combat. You don't get nearly as much shots, you're not as good a fighter, you're more likely to get killed. If you got into close combat with your battlesuits, you lost. It's over for them. Regardless of whether you win that combat, you then spent an entire phase of not shooting, which is even worse than dying. I'd rather, when I get charged with my Fire Warriors, see them die and get to shoot what charged them, than to have them fight on and survive. No. Fight or die, that's it. There's no middle ground there. It's shoot or die, rather. Shoot or die, not fight.